Perfect. Okay, so what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Christian Witch Podcast. I'm your host, Chosen, also known as at Christian Witch HTX over on Instagram and TikTok. I also am a certified professional psychic medium. I own the Elysium Academy of Mystical Art, a 15-week training course in witchcraft, healing, and psychic development. And I'm the associate pastor of Christian Witch in the Craft on Facebook, a private church for Christian witches of about 10,000 members. And this is my baby, the Christian Witch Podcast, and I'm so excited. I have a wonderful guest who just lights up my feed every time I see him, and now that I've connected with him a little bit, I definitely am just even more excited for this. So please welcome medium Sean Michael Rutherford. You may know him as Psychic Sean. Sean, will you please introduce yourself? Tell people what you do, where you came from, what's your childhood trauma? No, I'm just kidding.
Also, hearing everything that you're doing, amazing. Just applaud, great job. That's a lot of work. So yeah, I have been a psychic medium for 20 years. I've been doing this work and studying it. It started through childhood trauma. Funny that you bring that up. That really made me realize that hurt people. And I started realizing that a lot of the stuff that I was seeing as a kid was accurate. And that at 14, 15, started studying tarot. And then 20 years later, here I am having worked with spirits and mediumship, and with my mom passing, my dad passing, and walking a lot of people through the passing of their loved ones. This journey hasn't just been one of me studying it. It's been me having to live it and walk it. And it's been such a beautiful journey of helping people realize that life continues after living. And I really love this community that I've been working on building and getting to know people like you, Chosen, and seeing people that put this passion into being ethical and evidential and doing this work to really help people heal, which is my whole platform. I learned from a very early age that love could solve and heal problems. And so I preach and advocate for unconditional love, not accepting bad things that happen, but just saying, hey, I forgive, heal, and move on. And so working as what I do is teaching that, hey, life is tough. It's okay. Get aggravated, but love yourself, love other people, be healing, and just try to be better. And so I love this platform that you have. So I appreciate you letting me on today.
Oh my goodness. Are you kidding? I was just in awe of you talking right there. I haven't heard your official spiel yet. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God. And just thank you. I mean, just as a co-healer, empath, light worker kind of person, that whole realm of the healing work. Thank you for doing the work to get to where you are, because a lot of people choose not to. And we need people who are authentically out there that are not street psychics trying to believe people drive money. Not that there's anything wrong if you don't have official training. That's not what I'm saying. It's so refreshing to hear your heart is very authentic and evident when you speak that you are genuinely doing this for the healing purpose. So I'm honored to continue this conversation. Another fun fact, we're neighbors in the South. I'm so excited to finally meet you in person. So do you take clients locally?
I was before COVID. So I was a cardiac tech for 3 to 4 years and worked all through COVID. And it really burnt me out a lot with seeing people in person, because it was taking care of a lot of dying people. And then with having caught COVID twice, it was a lot of this, I am really just going to let my house be a vault and it be to keep me safe. But I've recently revamped my office, which is in my home, to start taking on healing clients again. All of my readings are over the phone, whether you're next door or across the country. But healing work, I'm starting to take clients in person again, because it's been something that I could feel was missing. I work with crystals. If you can't, I don't know if there's a couple back there you might see, a couple.
Yeah, I can see them.
But it's working with people, helping them heal physically and just holding space for them physically, something I've missed. So I am slowly taking them one case-by-case basis in person again. But awesome. All of my work is on the phone.
I love that. That's amazing. That's how I take a lot of my clients too around the world. It's all virtual, whether it's phone call, video, whatever. So that's amazing. So I'm gonna have to get a reading from you. So what I guess, like, how did you realize that you had psychic, mediumistic, empathic ability, any of this? Like, how did you actually realize it? Like, you don't have to, like, you can say as little or much as you want.
No, I tell this story all the time because it comes up a lot when you're doing this and you're educating, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, I'm Cajun. My mom's side of the family was full blood Cajun, and we grew up in the heart of Cajun territory. And growing up, seeing spirits, my mom talking about seeing spirits in her house was a normal thing. And I remember we used to watch Sylvia Brown on Montel all the time. And I'd be like, Mom, like, I've seen stuff. And she's like, you're not a psychic, you're just Cajun. And I was like, okay. And being in school and being as severely traumatized and bullied as I was from like all of the students because of my size, it became this warning symbol. It became this like, hey, watch out for somebody behind you. And I turn and like, there they were. And so I started noticing that around 8 or 9, around middle school, 11, 12, 13, I started getting visions about co-students. And I'd kind of keep it to myself and I'd write it down or whatever. And at 14, I was attacked by 10 guys and across the street from my house and got really bad PTSD. And I had to go into homeschooling. And after that, my intuition was really, really high because it was this, hey, there's people behind you. Hey, you're unsafe. So I started getting really bad agoraphobia. And so my story is I learned what I was doing because after the attack, I'd have my dad drop me off at the mall so I could face my PTSD. And he'd leave me there for 4 hours and like I'd make him leave. And in the trauma of facing it, I noticed that I was picking up emotions, picking up memories and vibes and feelings. And I would let that navigate me through the mall.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hold on, this is real. And I found a shop here in Lafayette, where I'm from, called the Gypsy Market. I always plug them because they were a lifesaver for me.
Yeah.
And I went in there one day at 15, and they're like, sounds like you're really psychic. You could probably hone it better if you read tarot, if it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it changed my life. And I was like, okay, this is real. Started sitting down to read for people. Anyone that gets this down for 5 minutes, and everything would be accurate. So at 17, through MySpace, because I'm old.
God bless, me too. I used to code and hack NASA.
Right? Oh my God. I messaged the students I went to school with. And I was like, hey, I want to know that I forgive you for the abuse that you sent me. And I know that you did this because of your dad doing this inappropriate thing or your mom treating you poorly. And I'd messaged them what I had sensed and what I had seen. And they all messaged me back going, how did you know? Who told you? What was going on? Like, I never told anybody this. I'm so sorry I treated you this way. It was absolutely, you were a scapegoat. And I was like, oh my God, what?
Wow.
And it was just 4 years of Sean, hurry up and read all the books and get all of this information and learn and pressure and do. And then all through this, like seeing spirits in houses that we lived in. And my mom swear every day that I am not a medium, I'm just Cajun. And so it was this big thing. And then at 19, I did this evidential reading by accident where this girl's dad came through. And I just couldn't ignore that after that. I started just learning. And then about the year before my mom died, I was 26, she passed at 27. I started taking mentoring for mediumship because I wanted to ethically, evidentially connect with her after she died.
Yeah.
And then it just was one thing after the other. Now it's just been 20 years of just doing this work every day. Yeah. And so it started off as a trauma, and then it went into this, I can't have this just for me, I have to help other people with it. And so that was my story. Everyone's like, are you serious? And I was like, I started this just to keep myself from getting bullied. I was using it as a SOS radar. Yeah. So that's my story. And everyone's just like, are you okay? And I'm like,
no. I mean, I guess like if I didn't understand some of this, I'd be like, oh my God, are you okay? But like, oh my God, like you just you highlighted so many important things about like this whole process. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like hitting trauma increases your intuitive abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it really just depends on people's personal beliefs, but some people believe you signed up for it because you're meant to do this work. And it's just so funny. Like, not funny. I guess just like
Ironic, odd.
not even ironic, just like wowing to think about that. That's the experience you had developing it, because some people, like, they don't have like a survival story. It was very much like, I watched Charmed and like started studying, which, by the way, love Charmed. I love it. I watch it every year all the way through.
Every day.
Yeah. Okay. See, like, I just finished Buffy, so I'm on something different right now. But anyways, but like, you see what I'm saying? It's like some people don't have that story where like it came in and actually like helped them survive. And then the fact you were like able to notice and like pay attention, like that's incredible. So I'm thankful to be able to hear this story.
I fully believe it saved my life, not in the sense that I think I would have gotten hurt. I think it saved my life in the sense that all the trauma I went through, it gave a purpose to. Like, I had, not that I'm better than anyone else, and I don't believe that in any kind of way, but I was raised by a mom who was all about like self-awareness.
Yeah.
And so for me, when everything would happen, it was just, this is what I have to do. I just have to deal with it. And so I took that as a sense of like, I get to do this. It's difficult, but I'm really excited to help people who don't know how to do that find it, in that this is someone who has walked the walk. I'm not just telling you a bunch of stuff I've pulled out of my, back there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Wow. That is, you need to write this down before something happens and we don't have this written anywhere. Write this down.
Will do.
That is wonderful. That is so, I mean, just mind-boggling how cool that is. But also, like, I don't know, I feel like I just watched a movie, and maybe it's like the clairvoyance kicking in on like picturing some of this stuff happen, but it's just like, I feel so inspired, and we're like a good 4 minutes in. So,
first of all, I can't be crying right now. Okay.
Okay, go for it. So you mentioned that. Wow, I can't. I keep coming back to this. And I'm just gonna say it, like, if you guys have missed this message, if you're going through something right now, if you're going through trauma and you feel oversensitive, maybe people tell you your feelings are on your shoulders, or maybe people tell you like, oh, maybe there's something wrong with you and people mistreat you because it's your fault. Like, that is a lie. You are worthy of being treated well, and you need to pay attention to that inner knowing, that voice on the inside, because you're going through things for a reason, but it's not because it's your fault. Sometimes we do sign up for certain experiences to propel us into our destiny charted activities in life. There's a lot of free will, but there's some things we are meant to do in this lifetime. And if you're going through it, just get through it. Keep going. If you can recognize it and lean into that healing process, like Sean was saying, like, at some point he said, okay, I'm going to forgive, release, and move on. That is so important. Forgiveness is not saying it's okay. Forgiveness is saying this energy is going to hurt me if it stays in my body. I'm going to process it out. And so, I mean, I know this is like a little soon in the podcast to get like inspirational, but my whole point is like, pay attention like this. Like, if you're listening to this story from Sean and you're like, I identify with this, I've been through things like this. Well, like, go check out his page. Maybe there's other stories you can learn from. Maybe start believing in yourself. Maybe you've been questioning your own intuition. Just start taking, I guess, not account, but observe the things of your life and where you're at, and maybe ask yourself, is there a higher purpose? So anyways, not to get preachy, but
no, I agree that, a lot of people, because I talk about forgiveness. My father was very abusive, and mentally and emotionally. And I talked about how, like, at some point I had to accept and forgive him. Like, this is who he is.
Yeah.
And I would always clock him and like, hey, what you're doing is not okay. But I understand that you were severely traumatized in your childhood, and you don't know how to be an emotional father. Yeah. And so I'm not saying that I'm going to allow you to treat me like this, but I am going to say that I accept that this is your trauma. And I forgive you for all that you've done. because that's on me in this life now to say, okay, I'm not going to carry it with me anymore.
Yeah.
And when I moved out and I invited him to my home, my apartment, I said, look, these are boundaries. You cannot come in my house and criticize anything in my life. If that bathroom's messy, if my car is messy, you criticize me once and you're out to go. You can't smoke in my house and you can't stay the night. And he's like, why can't I stay the night? I said, because I don't want you to think that you're welcome here to just move in. And he visited and he followed all my rules. And it was insane to me because I set that boundary, but it was also out of I forgive you for the trauma, but I'm not going to allow it anymore. And so we have this idea where people think that forgiveness means that you're accepting bad behavior, and they are not the same.
They're not.
Boundaries and then forgiveness for that your boundaries have previously been disrespected. I thought when I forgave that, I was able to respect my boundaries more.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I've had similar experiences with important figures in my life, and it's like, I can forgive you and not feel comfortable around you. I can forgive you and need space. And like what you're talking about is like, you're right. People are traumatized and no one teaches them how to deal with their trauma. And so therefore they hurt other people. Like you said, hurt people, but heal people, heal people. And, you know, at some point it does become our responsibility to heal ourselves. And then, you know, from that overflow other people. It's not like we go out every day searching for traumatized people to fix, but I love that. Thank you. So you mentioned that there was a period where you were like, I had to read all these books and figure it all out. Do you have any favorite books that you would recommend to people? Because I love books. I'm reading nonstop.
I read all the young teenage witch books. Everything about intuition, like it wasn't anything significant that I would write home about. It was a lot of just, I'd buy this book and then it would sit on my shelf for like 3 months. And then one day I'd crack it open and, oh, look at this page. I'd read this thing and it would mean a lot. Or I'd read this article. And it was a lot of that. It was a lot of spirit just sort of being like, look at this, read this one excerpt, look at this, read this one thing. I've never, honestly, beyond the Percy Jackson books, I've probably never read a book from cover to cover. But one book that I am fascinated on is On Death and Dying by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, which just talks about like the processes of grief. My therapist when my mom passed suggested, as did my mediumship mentor, and I started studying grief, and that was a big thing for me. And then a lot of it is through audiobooks. Like I'm a huge fan of the Texas native Brene Brown, where she talks about going after things and dealing with fear and vulnerability and all of that. But it was never any kind of like spiritual books besides reading mythologies and how people way back did things. I liked studying mythology and ancient spirituality because there was a lack of as much judgment. And so it was a lot of just trusting your intuition, trusting this, and following that. But honestly, it was really just, here's an article that just popped out of nowhere, read this. Okay. And then listening to people talk. And then I'm a huge fan of Gordon Higginson on his teachings on YouTube, which is a lot of, he's dead, but he's like my mentor right now. He's been my mentor for years. So.
That's awesome. I apologize, you guys. My dogs, for some reason, are like being so loud today. So if y'all hear them, you may not. Google sometimes filters out the background noise. But anyways, that is honestly refreshing to hear because everyone's like, here's 20 books you have to read. And I'm just like, I enjoy the fact that you've had similar experiences where you open something up because you feel led by spirit and it applies to your life. It means something to you. Like that is wonderful because there's people out there like they don't like to read, but they're trying to learn anyways. That's wonderful.
I'm very ADHD and I get really bad dyslexia after about 5 to 10 minutes of reading. And I'll end up rereading the same paragraph over and over and over again. And then 20 minutes go by and I'm like, oh my God, I read the same thing. But I'll listen to audiobooks when I'm doing like chores and stuff, on anxiety and helping people deal with stuff like that. But when it came to spirituality, it was all just, I truly believe.
Uh-oh, you cut out.
I don't know why. See, this is more of this. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
It's
the technology thing. We were talking about retrograde earlier.
You can hear me okay, right?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay. Let me fix this. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
When I think Spirit saw how much I was trying to cultivate a relationship with it, that it was sort of them trying to throw in my way ways to understand them better versus listening and reading any one person's account of how they connected with Spirit. So that way I could develop on my own without hearing other people tell me what to do.
That's wonderful. Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's so funny you mentioned that. I was talking about this with someone recently. Maybe it was another podcast. Anyways, my whole point is that, yes, developing a relationship with Spirit authentically, you get to know their character and you're just like, okay, I can judge everything by the character of Spirit now. And it's, even like in like scripture and in the Bible, it says, judge everything by the spirit of the word. And that's why I left the church. So I was like, y'all don't look nothing like Spirit to me. So anyways, that's some tea for you guys. But I always encourage people, I'm like, build relationship with Spirit. Do not go in with preconceived notions other than goodness, unconditional love, trust, you are safe, that kind of stuff. You don't earn their love, that kind of thing. Like, but other than that, just sit in the presence of Spirit, and just sitting there changes you. Like, you begin to be changed by the energy. It's almost like downloads happen. Like, you get to know them without like having to do anything. You just show up, and so anyway, that's
sitting
awesome.
That power. Just every night when I'm in the shower, and that's my cat. Every night that I'm in the shower, I always have like what I call a business meeting with my team. And I'm just like, because I have nothing else to do and I'm focused on just cleaning and stuff like that. And so my head's ready to go to sleep. So my left brain's out of it. And I'm just talking to them like, what could I have done better today? What can I do better tomorrow? How was I great today? How was I good today? And it's a lot of just being like, sitting in gratitude while I'm in the shower. And then the whole process of getting ready for bed, the whole process of taking my night meds and taking everything, getting ready to go to sleep, and just winding the day down. That to me is that, sitting with that Spirit, like you said, and just being like, hey, we are building a relationship together. And this is not a getting to know you. This is a getting to remember you. We are Spirit. We are people who are from Spirit. And every day I think it's important to have that time of remembering that this is your people. And I love that.
That's beautiful. I love the way you worded that. Remembering, yes, that's beautiful. So what would you say to someone who is just like, they don't have time to like go on a deep dive on social media or to devote to like actual training? What would you be like, just focus on this for now? Or like, what would be like, even if you have to give me like a couple of options, what would be like first steps for someone trying to develop these intuitive abilities?
We actually talked about this today on our live, and that's I really know this time that people are connected, because we'll talk about the same things in every arena that I'm in, and I'm like, we all get the same downloads, y'all.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Finding circles, finding groups, whether it be the Christian Witch service or it be a mediumship circle or a psychic circle, get in a group with people who are like-minded and you feel safe with. Like, I personally, I would not, I would want to be in a group where there's predominantly LGBT people or predominantly mediumship people who understand that what I'm trying to do here, so we can work together, talk, converse, understand, like, this is what I'm struggling with. Oh, you're struggling too. Great. I wouldn't join when I was starting out, I wouldn't join an advanced circle, even if you could find one that would let a novice in. I would join a novice one. Even when I got better at doing this, was more confident, I would go to novice circles. And they're like, "What the heck are you doing here?" And I was like, "Because I want to play. I don't want to be held to these standards of like, you have to do this work. I want to have fun in this mediumship." So finding circles that make you feel like I don't need to have a weight on my shoulders is very important in the beginning. And circles are usually like $20 a week, and they're not required you to go every single week. Finding someone who has a class, take one class. It might be a couple $100, and you get an idea of what the mechanics of these things are, so you know what you're looking for if you want to continue doing it. And you spend a couple $100, you learned about the basic skills of psychic and mediumship work, but $200, $300 for your education is really not that much. Or watch people on YouTube. There's a lot of free resources on YouTube. I love that.
There are
podcasts.
It's like, who knew they're free?
Right? I try to give a range of like free things, cheap things, kind of expensive things, depending on what you want to do. But just research. I wouldn't say deep dive. I would say go put evidential mediumship on YouTube and see what comes up, and then just watch a video a week. It's super simple.
I completely agree, 100%. Matter of fact, totally random. And I run a circle here in Houston, and you were saying things. I was like, I didn't think about those things, but that is why I like these people. So that's awesome. So Jane, you said something, and I was like, oh, that's a thought, and I forgot. Oh well, I'll come back to it. So I want to ask, being like someone with more than 7 followers on TikTok, what kind of what's that like? Because it's like you have to be it's like you strive to be authentic, but then I'm sure you deal with trolls. I'm sure you deal with like just people that are like, no offense, they're hurting and needy, but like also like they're not taking responsibility for their life and doing the work.
Yeah.
Like what is it like? Like you're in front of so many people.
Well, until the recent updates on algorithms, which have been trash, it was really weird, because like I went in because I got my following because I popped off last year and had a video go viral, and I got all of this acknowledgement in like a year, and I was like, oh, this is like being on a roller coaster that does not have brakes. And so it was a lot very quickly, and there was this sense of like, okay, everything that I've learned in these 20 years is having to be presented now. Like all the strength, all the core structure of the self, all the confidence, I have to have it all at once. And then things really started downtrending and getting more balanced, where it was like, okay, it was really high up here, and now we're getting more balanced. And I noticed that the trolls are still pretty bad. Like, I mean, anyone who knows, if you search me on the TikTok or the Instagram, there's probably like 500 fake accounts of me. Oh yeah, that was the big thing. There's a lot of impersonation accounts. And so I started hyping up education. I was like, okay, look, if we're going to do this, it's going to be about teaching you how to spot scam artists, how to keep yourself from being used by people who just want to use this for credit to look good. Thank you. And so it's been interesting, because I always thought that I was someone who wasn't afraid of the spotlight until I was in the spotlight. And it was like, oh, so this is real spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
It has made me have to take a lot of accountability, which I like, but it's also had to make me a bit more brazen. Like, I have to be more comfortable with the word no. I used to be a massive martyr. I used to be really big about, so people don't know this, but like when I started doing this professionally, I just went in deep end from the frying pan into the fire. My schedule used to be 6 people a day and 5 to 6 days a week. I was reading about 30 people a week.
Oh, wow.
And oh yeah. And everyone was like, are you, I'm like, I'm fine. Hair falling out.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's what it was. And so that's what I thought I had to do.
Yeah.
And then I recently severely cut back. Like I do 2 a day. I do maybe anywhere between like 8 to 10 a week. And the rest of my time is spent teaching and setting up courses and mentoring and things like that. And I found my balance, and that's fine. But I realized that being this seen taught me how to say no in a healthy way. And that there's nothing wrong with doing this work as a career. I do it ethically. I will always do it ethically. I will never take advantage of people to make my bills. But it is always the kind of thing where it's like, this is my time, this is my work, this is my energy. The same as if I was a lawyer or a doctor or anything else.
Yeah.
And that no is what I've learned from being an I.
That is so crazy you bring that. Well, not crazy, but that's awesome that you bring that up, because it's something that people don't talk about often. Is they think, I have a really good friend named Ivy Rivera, and one of the things that she's helped me learn is like, a big myth in this community is, oh, you have a gift from God that you should be doing this of service for free. And she's helped me like really be like, until you sit down and pay, And like, there's moments when Spirit like moves on you to like, to do something of service, to do something for free. It's not like you're greedy or like money hungry. It's creating that respect and what's the word? It's that exchange. Even if like maybe like, I don't know. I'm not going to dive into the whole ethics of charging, but and it's not really about creating like a respect barrier or anything like that. It's more just like, it kind of helps weed out people who are going to do the work and listen to what you have to do, or have to say to them. And like, I know a lot of YouTubers, like they switch to Patreon and they put a $1 paywall up just to like filter out the unnecessary people. And I'm just like, that's brilliant.
Let's talk about this from a biblical standpoint. My mother was devout Catholic, and she wanted to be a nun until she was 19. And then she became very agnostic, and she was like, I just want to love people. So I grew up with this very spiritually liberal household, which was, as long as what you believe in was to help people, then believe in whatever you want. But I grew up listening about her being a very devout Christian, about how Jesus preached love. And so growing up and listening about this, her and I have talked about the topics of like, priests in the old days didn't have to worry about being cared for because the town cared for them. If they needed food, they brought them food. And so we think, well, you're asking for money. Yeah, so did the ancient priests and the ancient prophets. You'd bring them a goat. That was for milk. That was for meat. You'd bring them vegetables. They were cared for by the community while they did the spiritual work they had to do. It wasn't necessary for money, but money back then wasn't what paid for things. It was barter.
Yeah.
And so nowadays, people are like, well, aren't you supposed to do this for gifts? Well, yeah, money. You bringing me a dozen chicken eggs isn't going to keep the lights on. And so I think we've forgotten that the old mystics in the way back, they were taken care of by the community. And this is the same that nowadays, just the way we're cared for by is monetary means, unfortunately. But when I do my healing work is all by donation. I've had one girl, she wanted healing work, and she's like, I'd be happy to come clean your kitchen. I was like, deal, done. Wow. I had one girl bring me lunch, one girl bring me flowers just to pretty up my house, whatever it was, And so I think that's where we forget that in the old days, the healers were cared for. And not in an overly so way, in a mutual exchange. Nowadays, the mutual exchange is money because I can't pay my light bill with a goat.
That is so good. Thank you for sharing that, because it really is like, it's the exchange. It is the exchange. There's something being given and something being received. We need each other. Like, we need community. And I think that's what I really liked about you sharing like finding a circle earlier is like you need community. Like you need to like not be a loner in this.
Yeah.
You're gonna spend a lot of time feeling alone out there if you're an intuitive. And that's so special. So what have you listened to or read or seen lately that's inspired you? Anything, or you just been going through the digs?
I'm really bad with names.
That's fine.
And so that's one of my biggest issues. So I find inspiration in some of the most interesting things, usually not from where people expect it. There's this guy on TikTok who his whole account is about being like, all right, let's challenge you to hold space for yourself. And it's, I want you to focus on your head. I want you to then bring your awareness of self to your right toe. And he's like, be in the moment, feel this. And his whole thing is about helping you like kind of ease anxiety. But the whole, be aware of the right side of your body. Now move your awareness to the left side of your body. And I've done this every time it pops up on my For You page, I'm like, all right, doing some work. I forget how important it is to just sit and be present with the self. You know, I don't need to connect to spirit right now. I don't need to connect to clients. I don't need to be worrying about, you know, what's for dinner. I can just sit and just feel my right hand and just be aware of my right hand, and that I'm here in my body and that my body is good and I'm okay. That's been really inspiring to me because it's been very apropos for this past couple of months. But I don't know, I get inspired by like you, like for instance, like you messaging me asking me to do this was very inspiring because it was like, hey, you know, Sean, you're doing something that's obviously respected enough for people like Chosen to want to have you come on to his podcast, which I'm sure he has a lot of respect for his podcast and wants to make sure he invites good people on here. And then I get invited to a queer TikTok and to talk about being LGBT and spirituality. And like, it's just
that's crazy.
Listening to other people like talk about their lives. And that's for me where I don't really get inspired by one thing. I just listen to all people. And one girl, she got on TikTok and was doing some very inappropriate reading stuff. And she made a video where she was just taking accountability for it. She's like, you know what? I wasn't raised around mentors. I didn't think this was a big deal. I'm really sorry. I'm not making excuses. I shouldn't have done this. And I was like, I'm inspired because here's this person doing this thing again. I think we forget that we don't need to find some Dalai Lama or some great prophet to be inspired by, because everybody, the homeless person on the street who's just being nice, even though they have nothing to get from you. We forget that the people that are supposed to inspire us are very seldom the ones sitting in ivory towers. And so, I don't know, I think I just try to look at everybody. So when I've been asked that question, like, what's moving you right now? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just trying to be aware of everybody. And it sounds like it's such a pageant answer.
No, it doesn't. No, and again, I think it's very evident that you're being authentic and genuine when you say those things. Like, you're saying those things and I'm like, oh my God, he's right. That's how I'm inspired too. So yeah, anyways, that's beautiful too, because it's like, even like you may not know these people, we still need other people. We're still inspired by them. That's beautiful. Anyways, so we have a few minutes here. Are there any myths out there that you would like to debunk for listeners, or like personal debunking? Now keep in mind, I tell everyone, like, don't believe something because I say it. Don't believe something because Sean says it.
Amen.
Whatever, use your discernment. But like, is there something that like the cohesive, reputable spiritual people could come to see if a certain one?
I know this is not always believed by everybody. Most of the evidential mediums I work with, it is, and it is something where I tend to, take what you want, you leave what you don't. But one of the things I try to debunk is that we don't get stuck. And I know this is for some people don't believe in that, but some people do believe in that.
You're talking about earthbounds?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't believe in stuck spirits, because I can't. So in science, we have this idea like that energy is literally the complete makeup of this world. And regardless of spiritual context, I understand that everybody has spiritual belief systems. And if cultures believe in certain things and you want to practice that cultural belief system, I'm not saying to overwrite that. I don't like talk over cultures. But in mediumship, we try to teach them the fact that the soul is truth.
Mm-hmm.
The physical world is not. The physical world is through your ego and through interpretation of what you're getting and how you're seeing things and how your brain interprets it. But when your soul is disconnected from the body, it goes back into remembering. It's like, oh yeah, this is my nature. This is my truth. And in all the work that I've done in all these years, I've never experienced anyone not knowing that when I haven't been in a state of ego. And so when I start doing that work and realizing like, oh, this is fear, but do you understand this person when they were alive dealt with a lot of fear? Yes, they were paranoid all the time. Oh, okay. And then after I express it, it disappears and I'm crying because of the amount of peace they feel now that they're in spirit. And I've spent so much evidence realizing that, oh, y'all are meeting us where we are. We're dumb, ignorant, like human beings who can't get out of this idea of fear and ego. And you're reminding us of how it felt in these spaces. So like I've done a lot of paranormal investigation and I'll end up in a hospital or I'll end up somewhere where there's a lot of pain. Well, yeah, it's a hospital.
Yeah.
You don't go there because you're in a good mood, you know?
I'm going there to hang out for fun, like.
Yeah, and so like I experienced a lot with people after COVID because I kind of started doing TikTok during COVID, and people were just like, "Please tell me my loved ones who are dying of COVID aren't going to be stuck in the hospital." I'm like, they're not, because the soul has no interest in being there. It wants to go home. It wants to go back to its truth, and so I try to dispel that in the sense that, look, if your culture, if your personal beliefs says someone gets stuck, and you have to pray for them or you have to just whatever, then you do what feels right to you. But as a medium, and in the many years that I've done this, I've never experienced anyone stuck in any place where once I got past my personal ego ideas of the pain, they weren't in peace. And I see a lot of people who do say it. I'm not saying that they're ignorant. It comes from this idea that they couldn't imagine that someone who spent a very difficult and painful life could just be okay. And I noticed that a lot, where they're like, well, how can they be okay? There's a lot of pain. Because the soul is ready to leave.
Yeah,
like
release that stuff.
Exactly. And so I want people to know that, because not so much in the sense that I care if you think about the earthbound spirits. I'm trying to get people to realize that you don't have to sit there worried that your loved one who was miserable in life is still miserable in death. Yeah. That's the healing I'm trying to help people understand.
Yeah, 100%. And that honestly is very comforting for people, because I don't know if you, I'm sure you've been doing that for 20 years, what it's like dating and telling people what you do. But there was one person, they were just like, I have to ask you this, like, my ex harmed themselves. Are they stuck? And I'm like, okay, well, like, I don't see this going very far after this, but but that was not using any type of sensing or anything. But it is not, and when I say that, I mean, like, that's just like, there's no like building a relationship after that. No. And like them trying to talk to them through you. So anyways, I didn't mean that like it wouldn't go anywhere for those of you who are listening because they were under the impression you can get stuck. I wasn't making fun that they believed that. Yeah. And if you believe that, that's totally on, like, again, we're not saying believe us. We're just saying consider that it's not your responsibility to worry about other people's autonomy and spirit. Like, they have the choice to release and move on, or, you know, so on and so forth. But yeah, anyway, so I get what you're saying. It's funny because it's like, it comes up and it's like, it's sensitive, but you're also like, no, that's not how that one works.
Yeah. And then in the dating, just about it, yeah, the dating I've had plenty of dates where they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, dead people. And they're like, is there someone around me now? And I'm like, I'm off the clock.
Oh my
Or
gosh.
I've had the guy that I was talking to like ask me to read him about something, and once they realize that you can just get into their stuff,
Yes.
over. Like, it's
Oh,
like, well, I'm always worried that you're going to be, in my head. I'm like, boundaries. My
yes.
partner that I've been with for almost 3 years, it'll be 3 years in December. He's a numerologist and he
Mm,
loves what I do. And so I was like, honestly, if you did not get this world like you do, I don't think we would have been together. But he's a
yeah.
life coach and numerologist, and he's just like, that's before I got on the podcast. He was like, "Can I ask a question for Spirit?" And I was like, "Sure." And so he'll kind of have like these check-ins, and then I'll be stressed about something. He'll be like, "Well, your chart has this number in it. You're going through this right now." Da da da. So
Oh
we
my gosh.
bounce back and forth so perfectly.
That's so funny. One of my best friends, I swear she's part of my soul tribe for this lifetime. And she's into numerology as well. She's also a mediumship and everything, but she has been doing this all week for me. She's like, no, look at your chart. And I'm just like, I don't speak numerology.
That's why I have a boyfriend numerologist.
Yeah, but it lines up. Oh my God, bring him with you. I'm dying to meet him too.
He'll be there. He's always attached to my hip.
Perfect. I love it. Sounds like my cat. Anyways, so yeah, it's fun dating. It's I will tell you this, it at some point you get real good at like understanding what's for you and what's not, and it kind of like there's a healing that comes when you're dating and you're intuitive. You're like, oh, like this really is not about rejection. This is about like two souls being cohesive for whatever amount of time they're supposed to be together. Like this is I would just, if anyone wants to get into intuitive abilities, like dating alone is a fun way to learn.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, it's fun. What do you, okay, so do you just straight up tell them, or did you just straight up tell them what you
Yeah,
did?
I've always been very brazen. I told people like I lost all my shame in my childhood. When I was, as much as I was like bullied and stuff, I just lost shame by the time I was 14, and I was like, I don't care anymore. I told people like, when are you feeling? I'm a psychic medium, and they're like, what? It's usually after a couple of couple conversations in the course of like talking to someone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we go to parties now. Like, well, we went to his coworkers went like for bowling night, and we went out, and they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a medium. And they're like, what? And they're like, yeah, I talk to dead people for a living. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. But I mean, I'm in New Orleans, so I mean, like everybody cares. But it is a big thing, and I'll tell you, like, I think that confidence, that brazenness behind just being willingly open about what I do. I live in the Bible Belt. I live in the buckle of the Bible Belt, and a very conservative area where I'm from. And these people were very controlling. And I've never once had someone telling me, well, you're going to go to hell for this, until I got on social media, because I would combat them with, well, this is what I believe, and this is what I do, and da da da. And the conviction I always had, because I had to, they didn't see any way to like tear me down. Like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. And then my mom would be like, I know that judgmental is not just, how do you just shut them down like that? And I'd be like, because I don't care.
Yeah. No, that's freaking cool to hear, because part of the reason my business is Christian Witch HTX is because I am particularly useful to people who are coming from religious backgrounds, and I can help reconcile the beliefs. I am certified and trained in supernatural ministry. I pray in tongues. I was raised Pentecostal and charismatic. Like, I know all of those things. And the more I learned, the more I got closer to Spirit, the more I was like, oh my God, these are the same things. And I'm dumbing it down. It was a little deeper than that, but like,
sure.
Yeah, when people argue with me, I'm just like, listen, I'm willing to be wrong. I'm so concerned with the actual truth and love of Spirit that if I'm wrong, that is fine, because Spirit's been so good to me. That's fine. I'll concede. However, from all of the research and all of the ancient languages we've dug through, this is what we are basing our opinions off of, and it literally says that these things are only bad if you're harming someone. It never once condemns LGBTQ. Matter of fact, if we want to get real technical, Jesus says two men will be in one bed and literally does not comment on it, as if saying it's not important. And even in the messed up translations of the Bible, oh my God, I always get his name wrong. Jonathan's father, King David, hated him, Solomon or something. Saul. No, wait, Solomon? Yeah, anyways, whatever. Okay, there we go. I always get the names confused. But long story short, he literally tells him, for today, you're going to become my son-in-law for a second time. Well, if anyone's familiar with the story, the way they introduced each other was whoever defeated Goliath got the king's daughter. They rode up, the king and Jonathan. Jonathan's the king's son, for those of you who are not familiar. And Jonathan became obsessed with David. David said, I don't want the daughter. Well, there's only one other kid besides Jonathan, and if he's going to marry the other kid, then he had to be recognized as a couple with Jonathan to become a son-in-law for the second time. So anyways, my whole point is like, we can argue this on your turf.
So that's what I love that. And I think it's, I did not study the Bible like you have, so I love hearing stories from people who have, and I love that. And I read Greek mythology and philosophy since I was a child, because that's where I was. And like, there, even in Plato's stories about Socrates, where he was it in the Phaedrus, where he talks about whether it is more ethical to have a lover or a friend. And it goes into them describing that. And he describes the friend as someone that you can give your heart to wholeheartedly without the expectation of something in return. Whereas the lover, a wife, is someone that you then have expectations with. And he's like, I'd rather have a lover. And then as it goes through the discourse, he describes the lover as a man. And they talk about how they would fall in love. And then he says something about how the only person who can truly understand you is someone of the same gender, because they've only lived your life, and that would be your friend. But a lover is meant to carry on procreation, and that's the only time they talk about procreation is through the lover. And and so like we see this throughout history, and when we go into biblical times, my mom always said, she's like, a lot of this were for people who were clergy. Like, these were rules that you had as clergy to stay clean. You couldn't do this because you were raising yourself above everyone else to keep your cleanliness high. So it was fine to eat shrimp if you were a common person. You couldn't have the shrimp if you were clergy, for whatever reason. And she's like, even still, who cares nowadays? But she's like, it's context. And people, I just tell people, fear does a lot. People are afraid of being these things that they're afraid of. And so they use that fear, and that fear dissipates the love that is truly there, and the acceptance and the wholehearted welcomeness of it. I've had plenty of Christians, even though I've been beaten down by a lot because of being gay and whatnot, where I'm from. But then I've had so many Christians who are just wonderful, wonderful people. And so that's why I don't judge people by a title. I wait for your character to tell me that. So
I agree. Wait for the character. Titles mean nothing. Anyone can call themselves.
Amen.
So it's all about their energy, and do they own it? Wow, I did not mean to go on a tangent about the Bible, you guys. Sorry. But anyways, okay, so I guess last question before we wrap up. I won't keep you forever, but is there anything, and I've been asking this to people that I talked to recently. It's funny, I actually asked this to people that I'm dating as well. But is there anything that you wished someone or people in general could know about you, even though they may not know to ask? Like, is there something you wish they would, like if someone was getting to know you for the first time, or getting to know you as a professional for the first time, like what is something you would want them to know, but like they may not think to ask about?
That's an interesting question. I think the answer to that would have to be, I'd want people to know that I'm not fragile. Growing up and in my life, even as an adult, I've had a lot of people who are like, well, Sean, I don't want to hurt you. And because I'm a pacifist, I'm a love and light person. I don't believe in harming people. I believe that unconditional love is the key to all things. And so people see this and they're like, well, he's fragile. And I'm like, baby, I learned this through the hard knocks. And so I want people to know that they can just be honest with me. And I may not accept or like or care for what I hear, but me having an emotional response, me having an opinion that may disagree, doesn't mean I'm fragile. And I get that a lot from people. I'm like, you can just be open and honest with me, and know that you don't have to walk around on eggshells with me. You don't have to feel like I'm going to judge you either. Because that's one of those things where, well, I was afraid to say this because, or I was afraid to ask you this because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I've been through the plethora. Like, my Rolodex is full of the things that I've been through. Every letter. And so I want people to know that this is a place of someone who can just talk to, be open, be honest, be yourself with. Like, you do not have to have a mask with me. And that's kind of what I'd want people to know about having to ask, is just that sense of like, oh, I don't have to pretend. I can just sort of just be real with Sean. And I may not always be in the space to hold it, but if you do it, I'll be like, hey, I may not be able to do this right now, but it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you doing it. Yeah. So can we range it this till tomorrow? But I'm never going to be like, I couldn't have, oh my God, I'm broken because you did it. That kind of thing.
Oh my
God. I'm not eggshells.
That is a really good answer. I love that. Okay, my friend. Well, it is about the end of our time together. Do me a favor. Yeah. Restate what it is that you do, where people can find you. If you have something you would like to plug, now is the time. Go for it. I know self-promotion isn't our favorite thing to do, but just embody it. Do it.
Well, thank you very much, Chosen. So again, my name is Medium Sean Michael Rutherford. You can find me on psychic-sean.com is my website to purchase services. I'm on TikTok as @PsychicSean, Instagram as Psychic Medium Sean Michael, and I have a podcast. Patreon. I don't know why I always get those words confused. I have a Patreon where I do like something where people can kind of get a little bit of information what's coming up for the month ahead who may not be able to afford full readings. It's $11 a month, and I do a bit of a prediction of what the energies and the roller coaster of the month ahead is going to be, with a meditation towards the end of the month to sort of help deal with it. And it's Spirit and Me Patreon. And all of those links are in my link tree and my TikTok if you want to go there. But yeah, so if you're ever looking to book a session with me, it's psychic-sean.com, or just follow me on TikTok. I make TikToks to sort of educate, because I grew up not having much money. I know how difficult feeling like money is a barrier between learning these spiritual things. And I try to give as much as I can out there for free or easily affordable. And so yeah, @PsychicSean is my TikTok. And then I have a link tree in there, which will take you to like everything I have. So
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. You guys go check out his content, his services, his subscription packages, all of the things. Just stop by and say hello even. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording here. I love you guys so much, and I am just really excited for what this season of the podcast is turning out to be. And don't forget, we're building a community here. You don't have to be Christian. I have plenty of listeners who aren't. Find us on Instagram, TikTok, wherever. Follow, engage with the other followers. We need each other. We need community. Sending you all so much love, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye.